If there's one thing that Nintendo just really seems to be good at, it's messing really simple, basic things up. Ever since the Wii, Nintendo has, for their retro gamer fans, people who grew up enjoying certain games, they've charged a small amount for these users to basically go in and download these games onto whether it be their Wii, their DS, their 3DS, their Wii U, whatever console in question. They've allowed them to download them to this system. These prices would vary sometimes depending on like what console you were talking about, or sometimes even specifically like what kind of games. Like NES games would be a certain price versus Super Nintendo games. You would have games like Earthbound that would be significantly more than Super Mario Kart, so on and so forth. They tried their best to price these games out as best as they could. Well, that kind of changed for the Switch. One of the big complaints last generation with the 3DS and the Wii U was that in order to buy, let's say, Super Mario Brothers for the NES, you would not only have to buy a copy of it on your 3DS at $4.99, but you also had to do the exact same thing on your Wii U at the same price. So in total, for some of these games to play both portably and on the go, you would have to spend a significant amount of money. And one of the things that Nintendo did that they kind of were like, okay, we need to improve this for the end user, was instead of making you buy the games, they wrapped everything up under something called NSO, Nintendo Switch Online. Instead of giving users access to a free game every month or 2 free games every month, which was kind of the standard that PlayStation and Xbox had said, they said, you know what, we're going to do nothing. So for the first couple of years, Nintendo really didn't give us anything until they finally started bundling in the retro titles. The retro titles started with the NES before adding in the Super Nintendo, the N64. Most recently, we've gotten the Game Boy series, and it's gone about as well as one would expect. Given access to all of these games has been nice because, it's not something you have to figure about paying an additional amount. Having to pay for the expansion pack has never been really what a lot of users wanted to do, but in the end, it's been benefiting the customer in the end. That being said, though, the service has had some issues. Most recently, and most infamously, I should say, Ocarina of Time for the N64, when it was ported over to the NSO service, had some game-breaking bugs. It wasn't even a conversation about being far from perfect. It was a conversation about being far from playable. Things like smoke, the background being messed up. There were so many issues when the NSO version came out that a lot of people didn't even play it until Nintendo went through and started updating it a lot. And, it's okay, fine. You get a game like that once every couple of months, it's no big deal. This kind of takes the cake, to be honest. It's being reported by both Nintendo and The Verge that starting April 12th, we are getting a new game as part of the NSO series of games for this month. We are getting Pokemon Stadium. Pokemon Stadium was this really cool brawler-style game that came out in the N64 lifetime, where basically you could just battle other Pokemon. It took a very specific theme of the Pokemon handheld games and expanded on it. Really cool game, something that I have played a little bit of, but in and of itself, I would play this normally. This is like a fun kind of game. That being said, though, that's where this problem comes in, essentially. With the original launch of Pokemon Stadium on the N64, they had a really cool highlighted feature that they encouraged people, didn't force people, but encouraged people to do. Basically, if you had a Game Boy, with Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow, what you could go in and do is you could buy this thing called a transfer pack. And this transfer pack would attach to the N64, and then you would slot onto the controller your copy of the game that you've been playing through for however many years. And what you could do is you could basically take out the Pokemon that you had been playing with, you had collected, you had been leveling up, and you could take that and put that into this game. You could put this into the N64 Pokemon Stadium game, and you could actually battle with the Pokemon that you caught. And I've seen people do it. I did it once at a cousin's house. This is a super cool feature. And it really adds to the game, because without this, you're just picking up rental Pokemon. That's how you play the game. And honestly, it does encourage you, if you see a game like this, to be like, oh, I've never played the original Pokemon games, but I like this and they can do this. Let's go and try the original Pokemon games. Let's see how it works. And unfortunately, this is where the problem comes in. This feature will not in any capacity be supported for the NSO launch. It was reported by both The Verge and Nintendo themselves that this feature in no capacity will come to this launch. Basically, if you want to play the game, you will have to pick up the rental boxes of Pokemon, and you'll have to deal with that. The Verge in their article said that without the transfer feature, it seems like you'll have to instead rely on the game's rental teams, which probably won't be as satisfying. And I can tell you for a fact, no, they will not, because they will be whatever default Pokemon that, whatever default Pokemon Nintendo says you can play with, not the Pokemon you want to play with. So I won't really say that I'm surprised by this, to be honest. The problem is, whenever you have a game like this that you try and bring over from another console, you have to work a lot with something called emulation, making the Switch pretend and think that it's an N64. So I can understand why maybe this would have been really complicated to work around and to implement a workaround or whatever. I get it. That being said, though, this is a really big element to the game. It's not just this one little cool item, you can't get because you don't have a copy of Zelda on the Game Boy Color. This is part of what made this game the game that it is. And to hear that it's not going to be implemented at all is really frustrating, because right now we're just now getting Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games on the NSO service. Right now, at the time of writing this and recording this, it's Saturday, April 8th. We have no Pokemon games on the NSO service. We only just recently lost the 3DS and Wii U eShops that had a lot of these games to begin with. But regardless of those games not being on the service, it should be something where, hey, we're coming out with this game later. We're going to patch it, or we have it ready so that when the game does come to the service, you guys will be able to do the exact same thing or whatever. It should be like that. And the fact that it's not is actually really frustrating, because this is, again, a game that I would love to play on stream. But I would rather play the N64 version than try and play this, because it doesn't sound fun, to be honest. And I really wish Nintendo, when they're sitting down and they're like, okay, we want to bring these games to the service by the end of the year. We want to bring this game to the service by, the time that the sequel comes out for the Switch, whatever. I wish they would actually sit down and think about things like this, because I don't think that the majority of the Pokemon players that will be playing this will actually enjoy how they've decided to go through and implement this, to be honest. Now, I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping that people still enjoy this game despite all of the issues that might come from it. But Pokemon players, they can be really, really picky about their games, how they play them, do they play them through emulation, so on and so forth. So I don't know. This will definitely be interesting to see if even Nintendo realizes their problem and tries to correct it. I mean, the hope is that, we get the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, all of those Game Boy games eventually on NSO. I really hope that comes true, and I hope that Nintendo looks at it and be like, okay, we didn't do this right the first time, but we can go and correct it. We can go and fix it. So I don't know, that is the best case scenario in this situation that I really could hope for. So I don't know. That being said, though, real quick, I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out and watched the video today. I know I was gone for a little bit. I had a little mini vacation that I tried to do work on, but unfortunately, I really couldn't do a whole lot more than writing some scripts because I was not in an environment that I could record at all, unfortunately. But I do want to let you guys all know that we got some really cool streams coming up, so don't worry. We've got plenty of content coming, so... but yes, I am finally home, and we are going to be getting back to the grind. So yeah, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure, if you did though, hit that thumbs up button. For whatever reason, if you don't worry, you know what to do with that little thumbs down button. So yeah, but if you do enjoy my content, if you've come and seen a lot of my videos and you do enjoy it, please do hit that subscribe button, as it does help me grow the channel. And I am a fairly active content creator. I upload almost daily, and I stream 3 to 4 times a week. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this digital adventure, and I hope to see you the next time.